Hello, I'm Mike Watts, publisher of RiversandFeathers.com, a website devoted to short stories on just about anything fly fishing. Welcome to our Rivers and Feathers instructional fly tying videos. Along with Alex Hawley, the former student and teaching assistant in fly fishing and fly tying, and an excellent fly tyer, we'll be leading you on the different patterns and recipes as we go along our journey, and use these patterns to help you catch more fish. Alex will also talk about some of the techniques on how to fish the flies and where to fish them as he explains the recipes. Welcome to Rivers and Feathers.
Tying the hot tag Frenchie. This fly is the same as a normal pheasant tail fly, except that it has a hot spot pattern. This can either be in the form of a dubbing collar or an ultraviolet thread. So to begin this fly, what I like to do is have my UTC ultra thread in a size 70 in fluorescent pink, and begin making wraps along the hook shank. Once I feel that it's nice and secure, I'll go ahead and trim my excess before making my way towards the bend of the hook. I'll then leave my thread at the bend of the hook, where I'll then tie in my pheasant tail fibers. I like to take about 6 of these fibers, make sure that they're nice and even before pulling them from the stem. This allows for a nice uniform tail, in which I will then measure up the length of the hook shank as the length of the tail. I like to make one loose wrap over the pheasant tail fibers, making sure that they're nice where I want them to be, followed by a second tighter wrap. I'll then begin wrapping my thread towards the bead of the hook over those pheasant tail fibers, which creates a nice profile for the fly. Once I get to about a 1/16 of an inch before the bead, I trim those tail fibers, take my thread, and begin wrapping it towards the back of the hook. I'll leave my thread just before I reach the back, where I'll then tie in my copper wire. I like to take my UTC copper wire in a medium size and trim it about 2 to 3 inches, just so I have enough room to work with. I'll then tie this along the side of the hook shank, and this ensures that I have nice even wraps when I begin to wrap my body. And for the body of the fly, like I previously said, this is a easy pheasant tail nymph just with a hot spot collar. I'll grab 6 to 8 fibers of my pheasant tail, and again peel them from the stem. However, this time I like to tie them in tip first. This allows me a little more wiggle room just in case I need it when I'm wrapping the body. Once you wrap it and meet the tail that you previously tied in, you can then take your thread, start moving it up the shank of the hook towards the bead, making sure you have a nice, uniform, even body until you meet that collar. Now I like to make one half hitch right at the bead of the hook and use my nice Regal rotary vise to wrap these pheasant tail fibers in a nice uniform fashion up the shank of the hook until I meet my thread. Once I'm at the bead of the hook, I can then take my thread and make nice wraps over the pheasant tail fibers, making sure that they are nice and secure and aren't going to go anywhere. Once you feel like they're nice and secure, you can go ahead and trim the excess and make another half hitch knot right at the bead where you left your thread. And again, use that nice Regal revolution to make even open spiral counter wraps up the hook shank, making sure that you cover your pheasant tail until you meet your thread. You can then tie your wire off by making 2 wraps behind it and 2 wraps in front of it, and helicopter your wire off or trim it, whatever is easiest. Now to make this a hot spot Frenchie, I like to use Hairline Ice Dub and UV Purple. This is UV to purple light, which trout can also see underwater, which allows them to pick it out among the thousands of bugs and lock in on it. For this, I like to make a small, tightly wound dubbing noodle, just slightly bigger than the diameter of the thread, and slide it up until I meet the hook shank. I then make wraps over top of themselves to create a nice uniform dubbing collar right behind the bead. And lastly, I like to have a little thread hotspot as well. So I will wrap until I see my thread beginning to show color, in which I will then finish my fly off by taking my whip finish tool and making 4 to 5 whips, securing my thread and trimming it off. This is another variation of a simple but effective fly that can be fished year-round, especially if fish tend to not want to bite the normal variation of this fly. They might want a little more contrast in the water column. It makes it really easy to fish. I use it around Clemson a lot, and I actually use this in my class to TA, as this is an easy variation to tie, but also has that pop of color to get students interested.
Thank you for tuning in to our Rivers and Feathers YouTube video on instructional fly tying. Also, be sure to tune in to the RiversandFeathers.com, where you'll find short stories on just about anything fly fishing. And we want to give a special thanks to River Vice. They've supported our efforts in our instructional videos, and we've enjoyed our revolution. And on that vise, you can tie anything from midges to monster flies. Remember, RiversandFeathers.com.